Hello and welcome back to Fairy Tale Fables. When we last left our story, a kind huntsman had spared young Snow White's life, leaving her to find shelter in the deep, dark woods. Now let's turn the page and see what happened next. Years passed, and little Snow White grew into a kind and gentle young woman. Her days were spent not in a grand castle, but in the heart of a sun-dappled forest, living with her 7 dear friends, the dwarfs. She didn't miss the cold stone walls of her old home, for her new home was filled with warmth and life. She cared for every creature in the forest. Birds would sing just for her. Deer would eat from her hand, and even the tiny shy rabbits followed her with joy, their twitching noses a sign of their trust. Snow White's beauty was not just in her fair skin or dark hair. It flowed from her spirit, a gentle light that made the entire forest seem brighter. Far away in the castle, however, a dark shadow lingered. The queen, consumed by her own vanity, still stood before her magical mirror day after day. She would preen and pose, confident in her power, and ask the one question that mattered most to her. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? For years, the mirror had flattered her, but the truth could not be hidden forever. And so, once again the mirror's misty surface swirled, and a voice, echoing with ancient knowledge, replied, "You, my queen, are fair, it is true, but Snow White, living in the woods with the 7 dwarfs, is still 1,000 times fairer than you." The queen shrieked, her face twisting into a mask of pure rage. Jealousy, a venomous serpent, burned in her heart. "She lives? The huntsman failed me," she hissed to her own reflection. "If you want something done right, you must do it yourself." Her mind, sharp and cruel, began to spin a wicked plan. "I'll disguise myself so completely, not even her own heart will recognize me. And I will finish what I started, once and for all," she cackled. Descending into a hidden chamber, she mixed a sinister spell in a bubbling cauldron. The air grew thick with a foul green mist. With a trembling bony hand, she took a perfect ruby-red apple and dipped one half into the glowing poison. The potion sizzled, leaving one side of the apple lusciously red and the other pale and deadly. She laughed, a wicked, grating sound that echoed through the empty castle. One bright morning, as Snow White was tending to the flowers outside the dwarf's cottage, she saw a hunched, elderly woman leaning on the garden gate. The woman's face was wrinkled, and she was wrapped in a dark, hooded cloak. She held out a basket of gleaming apples. "A lovely day, isn't it, my dear?" the old woman rasped, her voice thin and reedy. "You have such a kind face. Please take one of these lovely apples as a gift, a small token for your beauty." Snow White, whose heart knew no suspicion, smiled warmly. "Oh, thank you, that's so very kind of you," she said. The old woman picked out the shiniest apple of all, the one with the poison. "Take this one, my dear," she urged. "It's the best of the bunch." Snow White, ever trusting, thanked the woman again, took a bite, and a sudden stillness fell over the forest. Snow White fell to the ground, the apple rolling from her hand. When the dwarfs returned home from their work in the mines, their cheerful songs died on their lips. They found her lying still and silent, as beautiful as ever, but with no breath to stir her chest. Heartbroken and weeping, they couldn't bear to bury her in the cold, dark earth. Instead, they crafted a beautiful coffin of pure, clear glass, so they could still gaze upon her face. They placed her deep in a forest glade, where wildflowers bloomed around her, and the birds gathered, singing a mournful, quiet song. Days turned into months, and seasons changed around the silent maiden. One day, a young prince from a neighboring kingdom was riding through the woods. he stumbled upon the clearing and saw the most beautiful maiden he had ever laid eyes on, sleeping peacefully in her glass coffin. He was struck by a deep sorrow for her fate. Kneeling beside her, he felt an overwhelming wish to take her to his castle, to protect her and honor her beauty even in her endless sleep. He begged the dwarfs, who, seeing the pure respect in his eyes, reluctantly agreed, as the dwarfs carefully lifted the heavy glass coffin to carry it for the prince. One of them stumbled on a tree root. The jolt was just enough to dislodge the small piece of poisoned apple that had been stuck in Snow White's throat. It slipped from her lips, and with a soft gasp, Snow White opened her eyes. The sunlight seemed to shine brighter. The birds' songs turned to joyful melodies, and the dwarfs cheered, their tears of sorrow turning into tears of absolute joy. Snow White, looking at the handsome prince before her, felt her heart flutter. Soon, a grand wedding was held, and the entire kingdom rejoiced for their new, kind-hearted princess. Back in her dark castle, the queen, unaware of these happy events, once more approached her mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is now the fairest of them all?" she demanded, a smug smile on her face. But the mirror's voice boomed with triumphant clarity. "You, my queen, are no longer the fairest, for the young queen, Snow White, lives and shines brighter than ever." The queen let out a final piercing scream as the mirror cracked from top to bottom. Her own reflection shattered into 1,000 pieces, and her anger turned to shame. Unable to bear the truth of her failure and her wickedness, she vanished from the land, like a dark cloud fading away. Her castle dissolving into light, Snow White lived happily ever after, ruling alongside her prince, with the same grace and compassion she had always shown. She never lost her gentle heart or forgot the creatures of the forest who had been her first friends. Her story reminds us that while mirrors may show us what is fair, only our actions can show us what is good. True beauty, the kind that lasts forever, always shines from within. Thank you for joining us for this chapter of Fairy Tale Fables. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for the next episode in our series. We'll see you in the next story.